But it still shows that there's the effort to make sure there's free movement across borders in West Africa.
Well, I mean, that is the protocol, and therefore it should happen. But like I said, you just need to attempt to cross the border with any goods and what you go through. You know, the border people, particularly on the Francophone side, freely will frisk you and take as much money out of you as possible and will delay you. And for me, that is not no free movement. A friend of mine has just been sending a few things to Cote d'Ivoire. And her experience is, you know, formidable. That you get there and everybody, even though you have all your legitimate papers, you know, a company in Cote d'Ivoire has ordered goods from Ghana to have your ability to take those things and transit through Cote d'Ivoire border to Abidjan is almost impossible. And that, as far as I'm concerned, that is why I say that the regional blocks are a diversion. And now nobody talks about African unity. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, they are not worth the paper.
How critical is the subject of literacy to the improvement of the political dispensation of countries in the sub-region?
What? I think it is very important.
How critical?
Look, I mean, I can read X number of papers. I can listen to news. I can decipher what is happening. I can read in between the lines. I think that is always very important for anybody trying to make a decision on anything. If you cannot read and write, of course, there is news in our vernacular, in our various languages. But sometimes you are listening to somebody's opinion, and therefore an ability to form your own opinion is shrouded in the kind of messages or kind of information that is handed over to you. Your ability to independently, all right, look for your own information is hampered if you're certainly not literate. So we have a voting population that unfortunately is unable to do that. I mean, look, Britain, for example, since 1900, secondary education has been compulsory. Now, everybody, whether you pass GCEs or not, you would have finished secondary school. Your ability to take a newspaper and be able to read is there. And therefore, their electorate is much better informed than our electorate.
Has that an influence on the type of people they pick to be their leaders?
Oh, I think by and large, yes. By and large, yes. But as far as I'm concerned, our system is who can influence, you know, the electorate, you know, with money, sadly.
Is there a systematic attempt by the political elite or educational class to keep the larger population in the doldrums, not getting very much educated?
You know, it is probably sad to say yes. And I think it is. The answer is yes.
Is it deliberate or just a lack of not making the effort?
I think it's a lack of will. You know, when we were growing up, at least when I went to secondary school, 90% of those who came to secondary school from one with me came from the public school system. Today, you will not even get 10% of the people going to that same school through the public system. Teachers, public sector teachers, children were in the same schools. Today, public sector teachers probably send their children to private school. You know, we have, at least all of us, complicitly sat down and degenerated the entire public sector educational system. And at the end of the day, how many, you know, those who are coming out are half-baked. If you start a system with 100 people, by the time you get to tertiary, you have got less than, you know, a lot less than 20%. 80% have fallen way along the line. And sadly, the proportion that even fall out after primary school, after 6 years of primary school, huge numbers. By the time they get to JSS, a lot more people are falling down. Between JSS and secondary school, a lot of people fall out. Between secondary school and tertiary, a lot of people fall out. What happens to all those people? They're Ghanaians. They will grow up. They will also have children. What is then their capacity to even educate their second generation of people? And all these things is almost as if the political class is not thinking about it, because somehow it suits them.
So if you have a situation like happened or is happening in Burkina Faso, where you have a huge illiterate or semi-literate population who undertake a revolution but can't do the ruling themselves. It falls back to the political elite or the ruling class.
Oh, it does.
So it continues with mass exploitation.
Well, you hope that it doesn't. Because you see, once people can come out in this kind of colossal numbers.
Shows that they are informed?
Not
because they are a lot more agitated?
No. It sends a signal to the political class. These people have been able to do this. Next time, they can do it again. And therefore, hopefully, it would probably allow the political class to be a lot more conscious and not take the people for granted. And I think politicians and the political class take the people for granted. Because at the end of the day, they know that they can influence them with something. But if people then get to a stage where they say, no, this is what we want. Politics is serving the people and providing the needs of the people at their point of need. If that, for me, is the understanding of politics, then, frankly, we're not doing that at all.
In Ghana, over the last year, 2 or 3, we've seen mass class actions, either...
Where?
Well, by worker groups especially.
That's strike action.
Those are strike actions.
Oh, those are strike actions.
Those are not mass class actions.
Yes, I don't think that is.
Do you think inherent in the West African person or the Ghanaian is perhaps the non-assertiveness to be able to pinpoint what is wrong with leadership?
Oh, well, absolutely.
Why is that?
No, but you see,
is it a cultural thing?
No. There's been a culture of silence in this country. And I still say there's a culture of silence.
Is it a culture of silence that is informed by the way the traditional and cultural setup of our various tribes and regional blocks?
No, it has become self-preservation for the Ghanaian because of the long hand of politics. Let me tell you, we've gone through a certain political antecedents where if you talk, the system can get at you. If you don't talk, you are even assumed not to be in support of the ruling government. We've gone through all that. And people, for self-preservation reasons,
are very much self-aware,
have decided that I will not speak. I speak in my bedroom, or I speak when I'm in a very close community of people I know. And most people are like that. You go to the public service, you go to civil service, the ministries, they are
afraid if one day there's a coup d'etat, they'll be carried to the firing squad?
Not necessarily a coup d'etat. Even in our multi-party political dispensation, the long arm of government can get at you.
How?
Well, people lose their jobs.
Top civil servants?
Oh.
When you were in office, you were very much outspoken as Director General of the Ghana Health Service, even before you became the Director General.
Yes.
Okay, so...
But that's me. If you sack me, I have a profession.
Why everybody can't be you?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I live by Nkrumah's maxim. All right? One of his axioms is that the secret of life is to have no fear. And as far as I'm concerned, look, I am a pathologist. To the Ghanaian, somebody who does autopsy, who will cut a body, is somebody you've got to fear. So somehow people fear me. Because I can put a knife through you, and I didn't see you, even if you see my dead body, you run away.
Not true.
You understand? So,
but you can only put a knife through my dead body.
Absolutely. And I would only do that. Because I have no business putting a knife through a living person. I would not do that. But the thing is that there is inherent fear in the people of this country. Somehow, people over the years, and let me tell you something, during the AFRC time, during the PNDC time, there were a lot of people who got lost. Either for their, because they were vocal or whatever. And people have that inherent fear that even in multi-party democracy, somehow that can happen.
Do you think that if you have a long-standing leader, somebody with a dictator like Blaise Compaoré, because of some of these inherent traits, you could also siphon dissent, and as a result of that, not get the best out of political leadership?
Political leaders as in other political leaders.
Well, general political leadership.
Well, I mean, you see, politics is an interplay of ideas.
Whose ideas?
Oh, the ideas of the politicians. Ideally, they are supposed to go back, harness the ideas of the people they represent, but we know what happens. Our multi-party is very partisan. So an MP goes to his home, he doesn't meet let's say the NDC people or the MPP people in his constituency. he goes and the only people he meets are his party people. You understand? So even though he's been voted to represent the whole constituency, everybody knows that he represents his partisan faction within the constituency. That is not the way representative politics should be, but that is our politics. Who is talking about it? Who is doing anything about it? Do you understand? Because as soon as you go to the grassroots and you begin to see the other side, hey, your party people will say, ah, now we voted for him or we helped him, now he's left us, he's talking to the other side. But it is supposed to be a full representation of the people of a constituency, irrespective of whether they voted for him.
What you're talking about, isn't it the same things that tend to happen in post-revolutionary environments, where because we've had a long-standing dictator or somebody who's ruled for a long time, and a new person comes or the opposition tend to take reins, they don't tend to be very much inclusive. And as a result of that, there's resistance for a new force to take over leadership or rule.
I mean, that may be so. But I mean, I look at it and say that it is a question of the influence of our various parties. I mean, I don't see a party allowing a president the free will to harness the intellectual might of the people of this country and say that, look, as far as I'm concerned, this man is not in my party. This man may not even be in active politics, but I believe that he will be the best man for this ministry. You will get dissent from your own political party. You know, we have worked, and now that we have won an election, you are going to bring people who didn't sacrifice anything. But as far as I'm concerned, if you are voted as president, you are president of all the people of this country. And sometimes it is best to hold that leverage and say that I represent the whole of this country, not only my political party. And therefore, this is what I want to do to be able to develop this country, you know, as we have promised to the people. So no political party has the full complement of, you know, the intellectual know-how, the creativity, the imagination to run this country. But everybody is in their own silos. This is my party, and therefore, this is what happens. And therefore, this country is stagnating. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think this country is moving forward at all.
There's a professor in Columbia University. He's a development economist, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, and I'm sure you know him adequately. In 2005, he wrote a book, End of Poverty. Of course, it's been criticized, etc. But the underlying factor is leadership has come to play a critical role due to their submissiveness to dictates of Bretton Woods institutions. At the end of the day, do you think that is a lack of the leadership will to do what is right as based on what happens elsewhere in more developed economies, or based on the fact that we just don't have the requisite knowledge to rule?
No. I think we've subjugated ourselves, and maybe it is the softest option for any African head of state to sit down and, you know, cup in hand to, you know, the colonial powers. And I say that governance is a zero-sum game. What you have in your country, they don't have, and they want. And therefore, whatever they provide for you, they leverage you on the things they want. So we as a country, and I go back to Asajifo Dr. Colonel, and all his, you know, prophecies have come true, that Africa, by virtue of your historical antecedents, you have got to look into yourself and harness your potential for the benefit of your people. So long as you go cap in hand to colonial powers, you become a neo-colonial state. Today, I don't believe Ghana can take any serious decision without conferring with your ex-colonial masters, with even the UN system. And I've been very critical of the UN system, that it has all been created to maintain the status quo and to make sure that the OECD countries, the West, continues to rule. Because I don't see how the UN, Ban Ki-moon, can go and, you know, talk to Angela Merkel or Barack Obama, the way that sometimes they almost...
Or David Cameron, etc.
Sometimes the way they almost hold
or even Xi Jinping of China, he can do that.
A posturing over Africa. Because Africa, sadly, is, should I say, a very sorry state. Our leadership is incapable of holding themselves and holding their ground, and even speaking to their people and saying, look, we will have to go through tough times, but through what we have, we can develop and develop in a way that we will be the envy of the rest of the world.
Well, let me tell you what the UN has done about this crisis in Burkina Faso. They've come to condemn the military takeover, be it just within a transitional period as it may. But then that's a good thing by the UN, is that not it?
Oh, it is a good thing.
It's one of the reasons why the UN is there.
Oh, but I'm saying that as far as I'm concerned, the UN is...
Overall?
Is just to maintain the status quo.
Now we're told that Blaise Compaoré was headed to Ghana, but now the reports emanating in the last few hours indicate that he may be actually lodging somewhere in Côte d'Ivoire.
Yes, yes.
What do you think should happen to such leaders?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, invariably, I am sure he will go into exile and go and sit pretty somewhere. I'm sure he's got money stashed in so many places that he has access to. These people, particularly in the Francophones, have been supported by France. You know, Blaise Compaoré, through him, got Alassane Ouattara into Côte d'Ivoire presidency. So, of course, you know, that is, for me, the whole access. And it is important that, hey, he's there. He has got a lot of Burkinabés there. Maybe they like him, and he can be there and be very comfortable. But if he goes to Burkina Faso, I think the people of Burkina Faso should be bold enough to hold him accountable for whatever that they believe that he's been able to do. Hey, maybe, as some people say, even for the death of Thomas Sankara.
What does this indicate for politics in the sub-region, respectively politics in our country and the rest of the countries in the sub-region?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, there are others who have spent more than 27 years, and I'm sure they should be worried. I mean, Museveni in Uganda and Uncle Bob in Zim. I think they should be worried. At the end of the day, one person really doesn't have the total, you know, mind to be able to preside over a country for that period of time. And I'm sure that they themselves by now should be worried and saying, maybe my time is up. And I hope that these people will learn lessons from what is happening in Burkina Faso rather than allow themselves to be pushed. And what is happening in Zimbabwe and Grace Mugabe being nurtured, for me, just gives the wrong signals in Africa. You know, Africans must allow institutions to work. When institutions work, even when there's a leadership vacuum, it gets filled. Ghana did something beautiful when, you know, His Excellency, the late Atta Mills died. That Atta Mills died, and by midnight of that very day, we had installed a new president. That is a system that is being made to work. And somehow, if it has worked at that level, I want the other systems within the country to work. Politicians should not have sway over public servants. They should not have sway over civil servants. The public service, the civil service should also be allowed to work.
Do you think the way you talk, you create too many enemies in the corridors of political power?
What do I care?
I don't mind what you care about. I'm asking whether you think.
I don't know, and it doesn't bother me. I don't know, and it doesn't bother me. Okay. I speak my mind. I speak my mind. I am a well-educated person through Ghana's educational system. I have done, I believe, good by myself. I can read, and I read a lot. I'm very voracious at reading. I read a lot of autobiographies. I know how things should work. I'm a doctor, I have an interest in politics, and I speak and speak freely. I don't care who is my enemy. I really don't. That is that person's problem. It is not my problem. I have no enemies.
Okay. Now, the political season will almost get heated up. We're in November, so December, by January, we're into 2015.
Yeah.
And how do you hope that the next election will pan out?
Very peaceful. We will get to the date of the elections. Ghanaians will go and vote. The electoral commissioner, whoever he is at that time, will declare the elections, and everybody, the rest of the life goes on, just as we've had since 1992. And as far as I'm concerned, I believe sincerely that that is how the system would work. It will raise the political temperature and pressure, but as soon as elections take place, we'll all be back to square one, and we will have, you know, a declared president who will then begin to form his cabinet, as it has always happened. You know, I don't think that, you know, this country is going to, but I hope that the political temperature and pressure comes down.
Okay, over the last 2 decades since I have known you, of course you've been in public service for a long time, you've always advocated that we need a meaningful force beyond what we have, the MPP and NDC. A meaningful force, third force.
No, I've always talked about the advancement of the Convention People's Party. I have not talked about the Convention People's Party as a third force. I believe that the destiny of this country is in the ambit of the ideology of the Convention People's Party. And somehow...
And that's the ideology of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The blueprint is there. And unless this country takes the blueprint, dusts, you know, the dust of it, and begin to implement it, this country, sadly, is not going anywhere too soon. We're tottering. We're tottering at the base. And yet this country should be growing exponentially. Because somehow, we've become a neo-colonial state. We've given ourselves back. We've given ourselves back to our colonial masters. And they rule.
We've discovered oil. We have multinationals from the West who are doing good by our resources.
And we get poultry.
Or at least in petroleum, we get 13%.
Oh. And you're happy with that?
No, I'm asking a question, sir.
No. If what you're telling me is 30%, at least we get 13%? Is 13% good?
I'm picking your thoughts on it.
13% is no good, as far as I'm concerned. And whoever made those decisions sold this country short, as far as I'm concerned. We don't get less. We get less than 5% in gold. We get what? Is it 13%? It's 10%. You know? And why? We've got God-given assets. And somehow, we cannot even ring-fence the cost of production, all right? Which is what we should do at an interest rate, and that will be paid over a period of time, and whatever accruals, Ghana should have the majority share. It happens everywhere. It happens in Norway. It happens even in Uganda.
Why can't we do it?
The leaders who negotiate somehow write themselves into the equation and are unable to bat, to quote a cricket metaphor, to bat very well for this country.
Do you think, going by how we've had leadership in the Fourth Republic, political leaders have become more parochial of their self-interest than the national good?
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely. Well, that is them. That is them. And sadly, the people cannot hold them accountable. We can hold them accountable. You see, it is important that as a leader, if your whole raison d'etre, the reason why you're in politics, is to make good the people of this country, it will be seen. If your raison d'etre is to make good yourself, it will always also be seen. And that is what we've had. As far as I'm concerned, since the advent of multi-party democracy, the political class have been cozy and they have advanced themselves. And I say that we run a 4-year cycle where the politicians make money and the people get poorer and poorer and poorer. And 22 years of, you know, uninterrupted multi-party democracy, the people of Ghana should ask themselves whether they are better off or not. I don't think they are.
If you had a chance to be president for a year, what would be your foremost...
I think I wouldn't answer hypothetical
questions.
Right.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining me this morning, and it's been a pleasure speaking to you. As always, very vociferous, but the gentleman I just spoke to, Professor Ajiman Bedu Akosa, is a pathologist, one-time Director General of the Ghana Health Service, and up to now, very much praised when you go to the corridors of the Ghana Health Service as well. And you still do lecturing? No.
No.
Okay.
No.
You're still knowledgeable and you need to impart.
I need to. I don't know about that, but I'm there. I'm the voice of conscience.
Well, thank you very much once again. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll be having a lot more for you.